The hidden diary. The rain always fell hard on the metal roofs of the colony, making the streets sound like drums. Among the noise, a man walked quietly, his boots splashing in the puddles. His name was Daniel. He was not a soldier, not a leader, not even someone important. He was just a worker who fixed machines no one cared about. Most people never noticed him, and that was fine with him. But on that night, something strange happened. Daniel was passing through the lower quarter of the colony. This was the place where poor aliens lived, the ones who had escaped war but found no kindness here. The buildings were broken, the lights were weak, and the air always smelled of smoke. He normally avoided this part, but a machine had broken down nearby, and he was sent to check it. When he bent down near an old bench to see the wires, he saw something half hidden under the wood. At first he thought it was trash, just another piece of junk in a place full of it. But when he pulled it out, he realized it was not trash at all. It was a book, a small book with a worn brown cover, edges torn, pages stained by rain. Daniel frowned. Hardly anyone in the colony used books anymore. Everything was on screens, on data pads. But this was handwritten. Curiosity got the better of him. He opened the first page. The words were not human writing, but alien letters. Soft, curved like waves on water, yet Daniel could read them. He had learned the alien language years ago when he had extra time and no friends to talk to. Slowly, carefully, he read the words. The book was a diary. And the writer was a girl. Today I went hungry again. I gave my share to the little ones. Their eyes are brighter than mine. They still hope. Daniel blinked. The words were heavy, even simple as they were. He turned the page. The humans do not see us. Even our own kind ignore us. I am invisible. But I still dream. A cold shiver ran down Daniel's spine. He felt like he was reading a secret, something he was not meant to see. He almost closed the diary, ready to put it back. But his hands refused. Page after page, the girl's life unfolded. She lived in this poor quarter, worked to survive, and cared for younger children who were not even her own. Every word was filled with pain, but also with something else. A dream. One sentence made Daniel stop. I have an impossible dream. I want to build a school, just a small one. A place where our children can learn to read, to write, to hope. But it will never happen. It is impossible for someone like me. Daniel closed his eyes. He could almost hear her voice as he read. The honesty, the sadness, the fragile hope. It was more powerful than any speech he had ever heard. He looked around, half expecting someone to shout, "Thief, stop reading that." But the street was empty, only rain falling. He turned another page. I hide this diary so no one will laugh at me. If anyone finds it, please forgive me. These are just the words of a poor alien girl who should not dream. Daniel's chest tightened. He had never met this girl, yet through her words, he felt like he knew her soul. She was invisible to everyone, yet in this moment, she was more real to him than anyone else in the colony. For the first time in years, Daniel's heart beat faster. He wanted to know her, to see her, to tell her that her dream was not foolish. But doubt crept in. What could he do? He was just a worker, a nobody. Could he even help himself, let alone someone else? Still, something in those pages held him. He read until the rain slowed, until the night grew quiet. Finally, he closed the diary and held it close. He whispered almost to himself, "Who are you?" The sound of small footsteps made him turn. In the distance, under a broken streetlight, he saw her. A thin alien girl, her skin pale, her clothes worn. She was carrying a small bag, walking carefully like someone who had learned to live without being seen. Daniel froze. Was this her? The girl passed by without looking at him, disappearing into the shadows of the alley. Daniel's hands tightened around the diary. His heart pounded. He looked down at the cover once more. Then at the path where she had vanished. For the first time in his life, Daniel felt he was standing at the start of something bigger than himself. And he knew he could not walk away. Asterisk, the girl behind the words. Daniel could not sleep that night. The rain had stopped, but inside his mind the sound of the girl's words kept echoing. He placed the diary on the table in his small room, staring at it as if it were alive. Every line he read carried a weight he could not shake off. Who was she? Why did her words feel sharper than knives? When morning came, Daniel made a choice. He went back to the poor quarter, the same broken streets where he had found the diary. He kept the book hidden in his bag, afraid she might see it and hate him for reading her private thoughts. Still, he could not resist. He wanted to see her with his own eyes again. And he did. She was there, in the same narrow street, carrying a bucket of water that looked far too heavy for her thin arms. Children followed her, clinging to her clothes, their faces dirty but bright with innocent smiles. She set the bucket down and gave each child a piece of bread from her small bag. She didn't eat. She only watched the little ones with soft eyes, as they chewed. Daniel's chest tightened. Every word from the diary matched what he saw. She was starving, yet she gave away her food. She was weak, yet she carried the weight of many lives. For the next few days, Daniel watched quietly from a distance. He never spoke to her, but he saw her routine. She worked long hours in the factory, came home with almost nothing, and still managed to care for those children. At night, she sat under a dim lamp, fixing torn clothes or reading to the little ones from scraps of paper. One evening, Daniel opened the diary again. The others laugh at me. They say a school for us is useless. They say our kind will never rise, will never matter. Maybe they are right, but I still write it here. I still dream. Daniel clenched his fists. He had lived his life being invisible too. No one mocked him because no one cared enough to, but he understood what it meant to be dismissed, to be told you were nothing. That night he followed her further until she went into a broken shed at the edge of the quarter. Inside there were wooden crates, scraps of metal, and one small table. On the table lay papers filled with drawings of a school, childlike sketches of a building with open doors, children sitting with books, a teacher smiling. Daniel's breath caught. These were her blueprints. This was her impossible dream. She was not only writing about it, she was trying, in her own weak way, to make it real. He left before she noticed him, his heart racing. The next morning, Daniel could not hold back anymore. He approached her for the first time. The children were around her, tugging on her sleeves. She looked up at him, surprised. Few humans ever spoke to her. "You are the machine worker," she said softly, her alien accent clear. Daniel nodded. He opened his mouth but stopped. How could he tell her? How could he admit he had read her diary? His hands trembled as he pulled out the book. Her eyes widened. She froze. "You found it?" Her voice shook, part fear, part shame. Daniel wanted to say sorry, but instead, the truth spilled out. "I know your dream. I know about the school." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then anger flashed in her eyes. She snatched the diary from his hands and pressed it against her chest. "You had no right," she snapped, her voice breaking. "Those words were mine. They are not for you." The children looked confused, pulling at her arms, asking questions she ignored. Daniel felt the weight of her pain. He bowed his head. "You're right. I should not have read it. But I had to. Because someone needed to hear it." Her hands trembled. Her lips parted as if to argue, but no sound came. "I can help you," Daniel said, his voice steady now. "Your dream is not impossible." Her laugh was bitter. "You? A human worker with nothing? You think you can build hope when even I cannot?" Daniel met her eyes. For the first time she saw not pity but fire. "Yes, because I believe in it, and I believe in you." She turned away, shaking her head, clutching the diary tighter. She wanted to reject him, to push him out of her secret world. But deep inside, a small spark lit. No one had ever said those words to her. Not once in her life. That night, she wrote in her diary again. Her hands shook as she scribbled, "A human knows my dream. I hate him for reading my words, but a part of me wonders, could it be possible? Or will this end in more pain?" Daniel, lying awake in his bed, whispered to the dark, "I don't care if they laugh at me. I will make this real. For her, for the children, for all of us." His journey had begun. A human's promise. Daniel woke early the next morning, his thoughts heavy but his heart firm. For the first time in years, he felt alive with purpose. He had no wealth, no status, no power, but he had his hands, his mind, and his determination. That would have to be enough. He began small. In the alien quarter, broken lights flickered in the streets, leaving children to stumble in the dark. Daniel climbed the posts and repaired the wires, his fingers raw from the sharp metal. When night came, the lamps glowed brighter than they had in years. The children cheered, laughing as they chased each other under the light. The alien girl stood at the edge of the street, watching silently. She said nothing, but her eyes followed him. The next day, Daniel carried scraps from the machine yard. He shaped the metal into toys, simple things, a spinning top, a clumsy wooden horse with wheels. When he placed them near the children, their faces lit up as though he had given them treasures from the stars. But not everyone was pleased. Two human workers passed by, sneering. "Look at him," one said loudly. "Helping aliens like he's their servant." The other laughed. "Maybe he's fallen in love with that poor girl. Pathetic." Daniel heard their words, but he did not stop. The children's laughter drowned out the mockery. Yet their insults spread quickly. More humans began whispering about him. Some pointed. Some spat near his feet. One evening, as Daniel worked on a broken water pipe, the alien girl approached him at last. Her diary was clutched under her arm, her expression guarded. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, but there was steel in it. "You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Humans don't care about us, so why do you?" Daniel set down his tools and met her gaze. "Because your dream matters, because those children matter, and because no one else will." She shook her head, frustration in her eyes. "Dreams are dangerous. They can destroy you. They can destroy me. Don't you see? You'll only make things worse." Daniel stepped closer, his voice low but firm. "Then let the world laugh at me. Let them hate me. But I won't stop. Not until your dream stands in front of us." Her hands tightened on her diary. Her heart wanted to believe him, but fear chained her hope. She turned away quickly, whispering only, "You're a fool." That night, Daniel's path grew more dangerous. He gathered wood from abandoned buildings, nails from the factory's scrap, even broken planks no one wanted. Piece by piece, he built a frame in the empty lot near the alien quarter. The structure was small and fragile, but it stood, a symbol of something that had never been allowed before. When the humans saw, they laughed louder than ever. "You're wasting your time, Daniel," one shouted. "You think these creatures deserve a school?" another jeered. "Better burn it now before it collapses on their heads." Daniel ignored them. His hands bled, his body ached, but he hammered each nail with determination. But soon, opposition came from the other side too. Alien elders approached the girl, scolding her. "Do not trust a human," they warned. "They will use you. They will betray you. This is not our way. Forget your dream before it brings more shame." The girl listened, torn between fear and longing. She wanted to protect her people, but deep inside she wanted to believe in Daniel. One evening, when Daniel was fixing the roof of the small structure, he heard footsteps. He turned, expecting more mockery. Instead, it was her. The alien girl stood there, her diary held tight. For a long moment she only stared at the half-built school. Then slowly she whispered, "You are truly mad." Daniel smiled faintly. Maybe madness is what the world needs. She hesitated, then walked closer. For the first time, she placed a small piece of wood beside him. Her hands trembled, but her eyes were firm. "If you are building, then I will not stand aside." Daniel's chest filled with warmth. Together for the first time they worked side by side. But the world was not ready. A week later, when the walls were nearly done, disaster struck. Daniel arrived early in the morning, only to find black smoke rising. His heart froze. The structure they had built together lay in ashes, burned to the ground. The girl was already there, kneeling in the dirt, tears streaming down her face. Children cried behind her, their small voices breaking the air. Daniel fell to his knees beside the ruins, his fists trembling. Rage boiled inside him. He knew it wasn't an accident. Someone had destroyed their dream. The girl clutched her diary, her voice broken. "I told you. It was impossible. I should never have believed." Daniel grabbed a piece of charred wood, his eyes blazing. "No," he said through clenched teeth. "This is not the end. They can burn it 100 times and I will build it again. Stronger, higher, until they cannot stop it." The girl looked at him, her tears mixing with a spark of something else. Something fragile, but real. Hope. The dream tested. The ashes still smelled of smoke days later. The alien quarter was quiet, the children no longer laughing under the repaired lamps. Their eyes were wide, full of fear. The dream that had once made them smile now lay blackened in the dirt. Daniel refused to stop. He began gathering wood again, this time not from scraps but from his own savings. Every coin he earned at the machine yard, he spent on nails, planks, and tools. His hands blistered, his back screamed with pain, but he worked from dawn until the stars appeared. The alien girl. Her name was Lyra, though Daniel only learned it when the children whispered it, watched him in silence. At first she didn't join him, afraid it would only bring more heartbreak. But each night she saw him return covered in soot and sweat, his face set with iron determination. Slowly her fear broke. She began carrying buckets of water for him, holding the beam steady, and sketching new designs in her diary. Together, they rebuilt. But the world had not forgotten. One evening, as Daniel hammered a beam into place, a shadow fell over him. A group of humans stood there, led by the same workers who had mocked him before. "You don't get it, Daniel," one sneered. "You're making us look weak, bowing to these creatures. You're giving them hope they don't deserve." Daniel didn't pause. "Hope is not something you can control." The man shoved him hard. Daniel staggered but did not fall. His knuckles turned white around the hammer. "If you keep this up," the man hissed, "you'll regret it." Daniel's jaw clenched. For a moment he thought of swinging the hammer. Instead, he forced himself to step back. Violence would destroy everything. He could not risk it. When the men left, Lyra approached, fear in her eyes. "They will hurt you. They will hurt us. Please stop before it's too late." Daniel shook his head, his voice steady. "If we stop now, they win, forever. If we keep going, maybe, just maybe, the children win instead." But the danger didn't only come from humans. One night, Lyra was called before the alien elders. Their faces were grim, their voices heavy with warning. "You shame us," one elder said coldly. "You let a human lead you like a child. Do you not see? They mock you, and soon they will mock us all. End this foolishness before it destroys what little we have." Lyra's hands trembled. She wanted to speak, but her throat felt tight. For years she had obeyed these voices, bowed to their commands, but this time something inside her pushed back. "This is not foolishness," she whispered. "This is hope, and I will not let it die." The elder's eyes darkened. "Then, you are no daughter of ours." Tears burned in her eyes as she walked out, her chest aching. She had lost her people's blessing. All she had left was the dream. And Daniel. When she returned to the half-built school, she found Daniel still working, even in the dark, with only a lantern. She stepped closer, her voice breaking. "They turned their backs on me," she said. Daniel paused, then looked at her with steady eyes. Then we'll face the world with our backs to each other. They won't break us. Her heart tightened. For the first time, she truly believed him. Days turned to weeks. The walls rose higher, the roof was repaired, and inside they built benches from scrap metal and wood. The children began to gather, curious and excited, drawing on the dusty floors, with sticks pretending it was already a classroom. For a moment, it seemed the dream was becoming real. Until disaster struck again. One stormy night, Daniel returned to find the walls shattered, beams broken, tools stolen. This time, it was not
Fire!
It was sabotage. Deliberate and cruel. Rain poured into the ruins, washing away everything they had built. Lyra stood in the mud, her face pale, her diary pressed against her chest like a shield against despair. Daniel's heart thundered. His breath came in ragged bursts. Twice now their dream had been destroyed. Twice they had been told to give up. But as lightning split the sky, something inside him hardened like steel. He stepped into the wreckage, lifted a broken beam, and threw it aside. His voice cut through the rain like thunder. They think they can break us. But they're wrong. He turned to Lyra, his eyes burning. They can burn it. They can tear it down. But they cannot kill what lives here. He placed his hand over his chest. Your dream lives here, and I swear I will build it again. Stronger than before, stronger than them. The children, watching from the shadows, clung to each other. For the first time, they saw not just a worker and a poor alien girl. They saw fighters, builders. Hope. And Lyra, trembling, finally whispered the words she had never dared to speak aloud. Then I will build it with you, no matter the cost. Making the impossible real. The storm passed, but the ruins remained. Broken beams lay scattered across the mud, tools stolen, walls collapsed again. Daniel stood in the wreckage with blood on his hands from splinters, his breath heavy. Around him, the children cried softly, clinging to Lyra's legs. The dream seemed cursed, twice destroyed, twice taken away. But Daniel refused to bend. He looked at the children, then at Lyra, who held her diary tightly against her chest. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow. She whispered, "It's over. We can't fight everyone. We are too small." Daniel shook his head slowly. "No. That's what they want us to believe. But dreams are not measured in size. They are measured in courage." Lyra's lips trembled. "And if courage is not enough?" Daniel's voice was like iron. "Then we make it enough." The next morning, Daniel did something no one expected. He stood in the middle of the human district where workers gathered after shifts, and he shouted, "They burned it down, twice!" His voice carried across the street. People turned, surprised to see the quiet machine worker yelling like a madman. "They want us to stay silent. They want us to look away, but I won't." Murmurs spread. Some laughed, some cursed. But a few, just a few, listened. Daniel slammed his fist against his chest. "This isn't about aliens or humans, it's about children, about giving them a chance we never had. And I swear, even if I have to build it alone 1,000 times, I will not stop." His words were raw, clumsy, but they burned with truth. And truth had power. By nightfall, a handful of humans came quietly to the ruins, offering scraps of wood, spare nails, broken furniture. They said nothing, only left the pieces behind. Daniel's heart ached. It wasn't much, but it was enough to show that not everyone was blind. Lyra saw it too. Her fear began to crack, replaced by something brighter. That night, she wrote in her diary, "I saw it today. A spark. Maybe not all humans are cruel. Maybe dreams can spread. Maybe I am not alone." The rebuilding began again, this time fiercer than ever. Daniel and Lyra worked side by side, their hands blistered, their bodies aching, but their spirits unbroken. The children carried small stones, polished the wood, and painted the walls with colors they made from crushed plants. Every day, more people came. Not many, but enough. A few human workers, a few alien mothers, even a soldier who dropped off metal sheets before walking away without a word. The dream was no longer just theirs. It was spreading, silent, but unstoppable. Still, danger remained. The ones who had burned the school watched with hate. They whispered of tearing it down once more. Daniel knew another attack could come at any moment. But this time he was ready. On the day the school finally stood complete, the air was thick with suspense. The walls were strong, the roof solid, the benches lined neatly. A chalkboard made from scrap metal stood at the front. The children gathered, at the doorway, their eyes wide with wonder. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't grand, but it was real. Lyra walked inside, her hands trembling as she touched the walls. Tears streamed down her face. She opened her diary and wrote the final words. My impossible dream is no longer impossible. It stands here, breathing, alive. Not because of me alone, but because one human refused to let it die. But just as the children stepped inside, a group of men appeared at the edge of the street, the same ones who had mocked, threatened, and burned before. Their faces were twisted with rage. End it now, one shouted. Tear it down before it poisons everything. The children screamed. Mothers pulled them close. Fear gripped the crowd. Daniel stepped forward, standing in the doorway. His arms spread wide, blocking the entrance. His voice thundered. You will not touch this place. Not again. Not ever. The men sneered, stepping closer. But this time, something unexpected happened. Humans from the machine yard stepped beside Daniel. Alien mothers moved forward, holding sticks and tools. Even the soldier returned, his hand on his weapon. Together, they formed a wall. The men froze. They had expected fear, silence, surrender. Instead, they found unity. Slowly, cursing under their breath, they backed away. Their power was gone. Silence filled the air, broken only by the sound of children laughing again. Daniel lowered his arms, his chest heaving. Lyra stepped forward, her diary in hand, and whispered, You kept your promise. Daniel turned to her, his face tired but his eyes bright. No, we kept it. And as the children filled the school with their voices, the colony changed forever. Because one human had proven that sometimes the greatest power of humanity was not in weapons, not in wealth, but in the courage to make an impossible dream real.